we said, that could end up stretching out a while. So,
yeah. The other big news from the other day was USC and UCLA joining the Pac-10 or Pac-12. Well, it's going to be called the Pac-12,
leaving the Pac-12, going to the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 12, but now it's only going to be 10 real quick here. So, yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? College football landscape changing again.
I've been trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out what my thoughts are, because this kind of stuff is going to keep happening, because the conferences are going to get. There's going to be fewer and fewer big power. Well, it was Power 5 conferences. That's probably going to get whittled down. There's going to be fewer of those because they're all going to kind of merge together, and this is the kind of stuff that's just going to keep happening. I guess the more interesting thing is this is this a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Like, it's really hard to, because so many decisions now are made based on the football team, but a lot of these schools have a bunch of other sports. I mean, UCLA, it seems like with their athletic department, they're not just, well, let's try to win in football. They're let's try to win national championships in a bunch of sports. And I think in some of these other schools that might be kind of a similar thing, where they're not just going to go totally all out for football. So I can see the argument that it's a bad thing. I can see the argument that it's a good thing, because if these other conferences are making this much money, what are you doing staying in the Pac-12 and not getting all that money? Not that it has to be all about the money.
Even though it is.
Right, exactly. It's just, you know what it is? I guess here's my thought. It's just kind of this screwy sort of thing that we have to have, like, because the other sports outside of football, outside of basketball, that's kind of a whole different universe than the top end of college football, because like I've said this before, most of the kids who go play sports in college, they're not going to end up playing sports professionally. They're going to go into something else, Maybe some of them were able to get a scholarship into college, which is great. It makes college more affordable. But they're just going to get kind of some of the other benefits of college athletics. Like, you play on a team, you're kind of having to manage your time really well. You learn all these skills in terms of teamwork, in terms of leadership, and all these other things from playing on a team. So, yeah, it's just kind of one of these screwy things that these sports are all connected under the umbrella of one institution, when college football, major college football, is so clearly different than all these other sports, which is kind of like maybe they need to move college football into its own thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And kind of separate the other stuff out, because they're two totally different things, So I can understand some of the smaller sports being upset about, well, now we got to travel, for certain sports, it'll be a problem. We got to travel a bunch all the way to the Midwest to go play these Big Ten teams,
right.
Whereas before we were traveling around the West Coast and like Arizona and, all that stuff. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's just college football. College football is just odd in terms of how it's evolved and how much money it makes compared to the other stuff, which is why they should probably at some point in our lifetimes, I would hope that it kind of breaks off and is its own thing, because that would just make more sense,
And honestly, it's only like the top of college football.
Right,
like,
exactly.
It's only
that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about all of it, because like the football championship subdivision, that's fine. That can stay the way it is. And if, a matter of fact, probably 50% or more of the top of the football bowl subdivision, probably more than half of that could stay the way it is, because they're not making as much money as like Texas or USC or Oklahoma or whoever else.
Yeah, I mean, look, my major takeaway from this is we need to get better games in college football. We need to get more teams that don't normally play each other to play each other. We have to get better. I mean, I'm saying we need to get better out of conference games. I realize USC and Ohio State are going to be in conference games now, But we need to get these teams who should be playing each other more together more in order for this sport to get better, because college football is becoming incredibly regional.
Yeah.
And so them going to the Big Ten kind of brings another part of the country into the conversation.
Yes.
Because the Big Ten fan bases are generally bigger. They take up more of the country. There's more money involved. So I think this is really good for college football. At some point, there needs to be some kind of organization, though. Whether they do 4 super conferences, because what I think is going to happen now is, I think the Big 12 and the Pac-12 are going to, whatever's left, is going to probably combine into one thing. I think that's probably, the most likely next step. But yeah, they need to, and everybody's going to talk about tradition. I'm sorry. We can make the sport great with that, and leave some of these traditions are ridiculous anyway. The whole Rose Bowl thing has basically been, that's been thrown out the window because there's all kinds of different teams in that game now. So I think it's ridiculous. I'm hoping that this will be an impetus for, the conferences and the schools to get together and go, okay, what's best for everybody? Let's go do that, because they keep dragging on.
That's definitely what I think is most concerning to me. Is it's like, guys, like I've said, it's a different thing. You guys need to get together and organize and move the whole sport forward in one direction, instead of kind of everybody going like, well, we're going to be part of this and part of this, and it's like, no, you guys are. It's kind of like a professional sport. You guys need to organize it that way.
Yeah, there's way too much money involved for it to just kind of be like, oh, well, it's all free for all.
Haphazard and people doing whatever they want.
They need to get together and come to an agreement, and they just refuse to do it. And this is what I don't like about all of this is, this isn't that hard. Like, you look at the NBA and the ABA. They figured out, when it came to it, they figured out how to merge together. The NFL and the AFL, they figured out how to do it. So you guys need to figure this out. There's no excuse for not figuring this out. From a competitive standpoint, I can't wait to see USC play Ohio State and Michigan. And the way USC is going, I think Michigan may be in trouble, because USC is going to get all of these players. Like, it may be rolling with Lincoln Riley as the coach, and Michigan is behind the 8 ball anyway when it comes to Ohio State, and they could be in serious trouble.
Yeah,